and welcome back to Group Chat. I'm one in your army of hosts, Ambassador Michael.
I'm Ambassador Chris.
And I'm I messed up. And I'm Ambassador Jason.
It's fine. It's not a big deal.
Good start. Good start. Yeah.
It's not bad.
This is Group Chat. It's like beta. It's like EA beta. Like that's where we're at with Group Chat.
It's like Stadia, because it's basically beta, except we're actually good.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
I don't like the 10 or 12 podcasts I've done. That's the first time I've ruined the intro.
That's boy.
Fair. That's fair. Chris ruins it multiple times sometimes, and I ruin it multiple times as well sometimes. So it's not even that big of a deal. Anyways, we have things to discuss. That's why we're here today.
Yeah.
We're gonna try something new and a little bit different. I thought it was a little unfair to designate one person to do the new Pokemon game, because there's just so many within the group that have played it. Unfortunately, not everybody was able to be here, but you two gentlemen have joined me to discuss the game, talk about it a little bit. Chris, you're a little bit less than halfway through, right?
Yeah, I'm at the fourth badge, the fourth gym badge.
That sounds good. And then Jason, you said you beat it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you guys have a little bit different perspective on where you're at in the game, but also we're not going to go that far ahead. We're pretty much just talking about overview stuff. I'm approaching this in the way as a skeptical would, as somebody who wasn't sure they were going to want to buy the game. So my questions are pretty much anything I would have asked you prior to the most recent footage and stuff I'd seen. So
copy.
Let's see. So I guess we could go with the first one because this is one I hear the most about and I see the most about. Chris, what's with the overworld? Because I haven't really seen. I see memes about it, but I don't understand because I haven't really played. Obviously,
the overworld is pretty. It looks very nice, but there's not much to explore in it. I think a really good example is if you recall in maybe Black and White, there's like this really intricate cave system to find the Reggies, to get a hold of Regigigas and the 3 Reggies.
Sure.
That was a trek to try and navigate through. There is... what the overworld has going for it is that it's pretty. There's not really all that much to explore, even in the wild area.
Right, that seems to be what I'm hearing. The other thing I'm hearing is about just the Pokemon. Do they chase you? Is that what I'm understanding?
If you get close enough to them, yeah, they chase you, and oh my gosh, it is terrifying when you see a Machop charging at you, looking like he's gonna rip you in half.
I'm sure. That's the memes I've been seeing basically, are people just terrified running away from Pokemon.
Yeah, dude, those Machops run fast.
That's scary, dude. So that was my first take, just because I've been seeing memes about it. One of the things I want to know, I guess, from a perspective standpoint, because it hasn't really been discussed outside of the Pokemon being left, is Jason, with the movesets. Do you feel they're lacking in this, or?
No, the movesets seem fine. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, they took out a lot of movesets, but they also took out a lot of Pokemon. So they also included some new moves,
right?
And adjusted the power levels of some and whatnot. So there's plenty of plenty of moves, I should say. I wouldn't think of it as a bad thing.
There's no hindrance or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
Like, there's plenty of moves. But yeah, it does feel a bit linear. The cities are amazing and they look really pretty, but it's a set path.
Right,
yeah, except for the wild area.
Which is what, like the routes?
No,
the wild area?
No, go ahead.
Okay, fine. I'll do it. No, I'm doing it. We're not going to do this back and forth. Okay. The wild area is kind of the space between the towns where there's a whole bunch of wild Pokemon, and
Sure.
There is a pretty big variety of them. But there is a little bit of polish that's missing. So there are kind of different biomes in the wild area. Like there's a desert biome and there's a snow biome. But there's no snow on the ground, and there's no snow in the trees. The only difference is that there's just snow in the air. Like you see snow falling, but that's it. Same thing with the sandstorm. Like
even with the sand, like the desert areas.
Yeah,
so the ground is just static, basically.
Yeah, it's just
always green or whatever.
The only difference, between the grassy area, the rainy area, the winter area, and the desert area is what's happening in the sky.
There is a desert area though.
It's
There's
the
like
ground's actually
a
like
desert.
sand.
Yeah, yeah. There's a desert terrain. A
Okay.
very small area, but there is.
Yeah, it's missing a lot of polish, and you can see that in you know that
Right,
was
in the
just an
world.
example of the
Right,
polish
right.
that's missing.
I just find that interesting because like typically they do very well with the worlds. Now granted they had less to worry about in terms of the level of detail, but like there was that one
What makes
city
you
in
say that?
well, because like in Ruby and Sapphire, there's that city with ash that's completely covered in ash. Like, and they went out of their way to make it look like it was covered in ash. You know what I mean? Even though it was like on a mountain or whatever. Like it had mountain terrain
Yeah,
covered in ash.
but that
So,
was very static setting. Like no
right,
matter
exactly.
what time you went, it was always like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Is the
guess.
weather changing in this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Each time you go, it's gonna be different. Either foggy, sandstorm, rain, sunny, snowstorm.
Gotcha.
And it just seems like they didn't have the time to make, when it's
Right.
snowing in that particular area, let's have snow on the ground. Let's have snow on the trees. Stuff like that.
Gotcha. Okay. That was I guess where a little bit of my confusion came from because typically they do it in those static environments.
Yeah,
Um,
there are static environments with a snow terrain, but it's not in the
gotcha.
wild area.
Gotcha. Okay. It's a little bit confusing. If I saw it, I'm sure it'd make sense. But just like hearing about it is a little weird. Um, one of the big things for me is the opening of Pokemon games. Like I find them
Hmm.
to be extremely important and nostalgic. How is the opening like up to the first gym in this one?
Uneventful because I can't even really remember it.
Okay, well that answers my
Um,
question. Basically, that was the question: is it memorable? Is it
it
nostalgia worthy?
it's a typical start of a Pokemon game. You get
Okay,
up and you talk to your friend who's your rival or your mother. You
right,
go out and about. It was a little bit different, but it's still like it really haven't like every generation is a little bit different the way you obtain your Pokemon and whatnot. Um,
right.
this one, you're excited to meet your friend's brother who's a champion. And like they had like several cutscenes and whatnot prior to you getting your Pokemon partner. It
Okay,
was it was a lot more cutscenes involved in obtaining your Pokemon partner as opposed to normal. It was fun. It wasn't anything, groundbreaking or whatnot.
right. And I assume there's no voice acting; it's all just text blocks and stuff.
It's weird. I never had a problem with no voice acting in Pokemon, but with the level of detail that the graphics are in, like the graphical difference between this and a
Sure.
3DS, and it being on a Switch where I'm used to some kind of voice,
Right.
having a
You know
Switch
what?
game with zero voice acting, it's really weird.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with that. I agree with that definitely. It seems for the like animation quality that there should be some voice acting. Not that I'm
Yeah.
bothered by it, but I
Right.
can see how if you think of it in terms of a Switch game as opposed to just a Pokemon game, you would expect,
Right.
some voice acting a little bit just for
Ye-
the console it's on.
Do you think
And
some of that like mumble Animal Crossing kind of stuff would fit in? Sorry, Jason. I do want to get to your point.
no, that would actually be better than nothing.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Do
I was just
Zelda
curious.
style where it's everyone just going,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
some
Something
kind of
like that.
gesture.
sound like
Um,
Minecraft villagers.
Right.
yeah. But the thing is, I played Let's Go, and I never noticed it in there. And I guess it could be because it was a remake of Red and of Yellow, and there was no voice acting in there that I never really
Right.
thought about it.
You
But
didn't
now,
anticipate it.
yeah. But
Yeah.
now with this brand new one, like it kind of bothered me a bit.
It's just like a weird thing.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
awkward.
That's interesting. The reason why I specifically asked is because I happen to play Little Town Hero. I'm one of the like 7 people, that played it. Uh, and even in that game, they did the Animal Crossing style voice acting where they just
hmm
like made weird those little na 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 meh, na 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 like that kind of stuff. So they could have done it. I don't know who made the shots, who calls the shots over there, but
I feel like it's like a lot of the stuff that I want to talk about going forward is gonna just be related to the time frame that they had.
Yeah.
right
There
of
was no
building the game.
room to extend it. Yeah, if you think
Yeah.
about it, they extended They added Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon because they weren't ready. They
Right.
released Let's Go because they weren't
They weren't
ready.
ready.
And they usually release a Pokemon game every year, some kind of Pokemon game every
Right.
year. They had no way of pushing this game back further. They always have to have a November release. There was no way they can push it back further. They just had to cut some corners.
Right.
Some.
Which that was my concern, is because that's what people were worried about ahead of time. So building on that, what do you feel like it cuts corners, I guess, then, Chris? If you feel so
Well,
strongly about it.
the obvious one, of course, is they neutered the Pokedex down something fierce.
Right.
They
We'll
got
get into
rid
that
of
more
Mega.
detail.
Yeah, well, I won't go into too much detail on that. They got rid of Mega Evolutions and Z moves, which, those were huge parts of the respective games they appeared in. So to kind of just throw them out seemed kind of I don't know.
It seems weird. They keep doing that where they're like, here's this new feature. Just kidding.
Yeah. Jason.
Yeah. I don't care too much for Z moves, but Mega Evolutions were amazing because it made some Pokemon that weren't really competitive viable. Like
exactly, like Gallade, my favorite Pokemon, for example. He's an NU, and yet his Mega Evolution's in UU, which is the second highest playable tier.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I did miss out on the Mega Evolutions, but the Z moves, they were nice for what it was, but I never really used it.
Okay,
it's just
I never played those are from Sun and Moon, right? And Ultra Sun.
Yes.
Yeah, I never got around to them, so I'm not familiar. But I am familiar with Mega Evolutions because I played X and Y and the remasters or remakes of Ruby and Sapphire. So
BS, you got like a quarter into Oris and then you stopped playing.
I'd have to
remember.
go back. I'd have to go back. That sounds about right. Because I think I played it and I was like, oh, this is basically just exactly the same as I remember it. I'm good. I think that's like the theory. Because I was like, oh, I don't need to play this. I've already played this game, and I like it a lot. I just don't really. I'd rather go play a new game. So that I guess that's exactly was my concern going into these games of like, okay, is it really gonna be like a new game? And so I guess I'll lead that into like the next question for Jason. How do you feel about the new Pokemon? Just in the Galar region Pokemon.
Amazing. I think the designs were amazing. Very unique designs. Like, this is some of the best new Pokemon that's come out of Game Freak in a long time. The typings are great. The names are nice. The evolutions are funny. The Galarian versions of older Pokemon are amazing. It kind of makes them. That's kind of like that Mega Evolution kind of makes older Pokemon more viable for competitive, changing the typing and stuff. And they introduced that back in Sun and Moon with the Lorian forms.
Right.
But yeah, I'm very happy with the new designs of the Pokemon. That they hit the nail on the head with.
Okay. How do you feel about them, Chris?
Kind of the opposite.
Yeah, I thought so. That's why I figured.
Just some of it. Of course, some of it is going to be because I've been playing Pokemon for a long time, and of course, I'll always go, "Oh, these designs aren't nearly as good as they used to be."
Yeah.
I didn't think the designs were inherently bad, so I shouldn't say opposite. The designs weren't inherently bad. They were new Pokemon, they were new themes.
Right.
I did like there was the new kind of bird. I call them the intro birds. Like there's Pidgey and
Sparrow, and
no, that Sparrow's not one of the. I'm talking about the birds that you find in like the early areas, like Pidgey, and then Starling or Starly for Diamond and Pearl, like those.
Right.
There's the bird one in this game. I like that one. They have an apple themed one that I cannot unsee, looking like Mr. Krabs.
That's funny.
You know what I'm talking about, Jason. There's one where its eyes are sticking out of an apple, and it seriously looks like Mr. Krabs' eyes are sticking out of an apple.
I've seen the base level apple form, if that's what you're referring to.
That is what I'm referring to.
Okay, yeah, it kind of does look like Mr. Krabs.
They aren't inherently bad. It just, I feel like the fact that the Pokedex was taken out is putting the bad taste in the mouth, and that's what's going to make people hate on the new Pokemon even more.
Well, I was upset when they announced that because I have every single Pokemon now.
Collected?
Like tons of shinies, just very exclusive Pokemon. I have all that. And yes, I was upset when they first announced it. But now that, I see what the game is, I see them transitioning from the 3DS to the Switch as this is their base right here, and it's only going to get better. Like they mentioned this a while back that when they did X and Y, they were trying to future-proof Pokemon, so it was easier to port them over. It didn't quite work that well going to the Switch, so they still used the same models, but they had to redo them.
Right.
Essentially.
Didn't they show the wireframes though were like the same? I've been seeing that all over the place.
No, like I've watched several YouTube videos from like Blunty and a couple other YouTubers that kind of like they've proven that they did have to go back and rework the Pokemon. They're the same models, they have the same animations, but they had to be redone. And that's part of the reason why the Pokedex was cut.
Gotcha.
That and time, like I said, like they had to make this deadline. So this game, it's kind of like a shell of what it could really be, but with time going forward, like Pokemon's gonna be completely different. Like it's gonna be much better. I can see it getting so much better.
Okay, so Jason, answer me this then. So let's say that right now, because I only have so many Pokemon, can't you conversely also say that if they see now that the Pokemon game sells without including all Pokemon, they will never include all Pokemon ever again?
That is one way you can look at it.
It's
just definitely one way you can look at it. But
I gotcha.
No, you didn't get me. I'm just saying, like, Game Freak, I don't think Game Freak would do that. They're not. I see EA doing that.
Yeah, that would definitely
Game Freak at its heart is not corrupt like that. Like, I remember when they announced. I don't know if it was Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon or if it was Let's Go. I can't remember which one it was at E3, and everyone was like PO'd because there wasn't a new generation announced. They went out and made a video hours later saying, yes, we are working on a new Pokemon game. And that's essentially what it was. They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do that at all. They've had several interviews with the producers stating, they tried and they just couldn't. Like, I don't see them as cutting corners on, like, to be lazy. They had to make a time. They had to, like, make this date and time, and there was really nothing they can do about it. That's how I see it. Now these 400 Pokemon are done. The very next game that comes out could be 400 different Pokemon. You're not like new,
that's
but
a
like
good way to look
the ones
at
that were cut. And then let's say the next game, then they kind of mix them together, and then the final game they have all the models done. It could be like the ultimate Pokemon game, like Smash.
Cool.
It just
that'd be so cool. Okay,
that's what I'm thinking. And as like when I look towards the future of Pokemon with everything that's happening, that's how I think they're thinking and they're getting it together. I just feel like they're hindered by the date, the release time that they have to hit each year.
Right. Because the thing we discussed is the capabilities of the Switch and how it just didn't always seem like, okay, this isn't probably not a performance related issue in terms of actually getting them on there. Balance for sure I could understand because it's an insane amount of Pokemon you have to figure out how they fit together. So you guys kind of knocked out a bunch of the questions I had here. So I guess I can go into. I want to, I guess, accent this point. In this game, do you feel like the National Dex is necessary for it to be a good game, or does it feel like you kind of mentioned it, Jason, that it feels like a shell, but does it actually feel like a lesser game compared to the other ones? So it's two questions basically.
By a shell, I don't mean like it's missing things. I just feel like it's a light version. Like, not that 400 Pokemon is not enough. I feel like 400 Pokemon is more than enough for right now. Like, I'm trying to complete. There are people that complete the Pokedex within a week, but they did so playing crazy amounts of hours of Pokemon. And I played a lot of hours of Pokemon too, but I didn't rush it. I enjoyed my game. I did not rush this at all when I beat the game. I was simply playing and having fun. And now I'm just trying to complete the Pokedex, and it's not easy. Like, it's going to take me a few more weeks to get everything I need to get. But 400 Pokemon is a good amount of Pokemon, especially when it comes to competitive battling. You have a lot of options, a lot of new ones, a lot of old favorite ones. But what I mean by like shell is like, yes, some of the graphics weren't the best. Yes, like in the overworld. Yes, it feels very linear, and I feel like they can do better than just having a linear story. I miss being like when I played Red and Blue, I used to get lost as a kid, like not knowing where to go. I miss that aspect of Pokemon. So I feel like going forward, things will be better. Like it'll be more feature packed
Gotcha.
than what it is already.
Gotcha. I guess the same. I have the same question for you because Chris, with the deck and whether or not you feel it makes it lesser of a game, because you and I spoke about it a lot and we seem pretty convinced that it would make it lesser.
I think that people are so focused on the Pokedex that it's keeping them from seeing the good things in this game.
Okay.
Exactly.
I think that's more than a fair
I
point.
think that's a very important point. The Dynamax battles are kind of cool. You know, it's hard to tell people like, okay, but if you just ignore the fact that there's a bunch of Pokemon missing, how is the gameplay? And of course they go, well, there's no Pokemon. It's like, I'm not talking about that. Like, just there are some cool features. The I think it's like a Pokemon like camping thing is kind of. I know my fiance likes that.
Right.
The Dynamax battles are unique. They're interesting.
Chris.
Yeah.
The gym battle music. The gym battle music.
I can't remember what it sounds like right now.
It is so fire. Like you cannot sit there and have a gym battle and be sad. The music gets you hyped. It's crazy.
My favorite gym music in any Pokemon game it was the Elite Four music in Diamond and Pearl, but it was the gym music in Platinum, and it is the best music ever. But I digress. I think that if you isolate, the whole issue of there not being as many Pokemon as you would like in this game, I think there are some very cool things to enjoy the game with. I wish there was more to explore.
Yes.
But, it's if you think of it without initially considering the Pokemon missing, I think, yeah, it's a pretty good game. It's for a Pokemon game. What do you really expect with a Pokemon game? You expect a deep plot? Like, it's a Pokemon
You're not getting
game.
it. Right.
I was disappointed in the size of the map. The map when they first revealed it in the first trailer, it looked huge.
Yeah, the map is not big.
I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna like not that I want a 40, 50 hour storyline.
Right.
I was like, I'm gonna be exploring a huge new region. Huge new region. It's not that big. It really isn't.
If it makes you feel any better, that's basically how England and the UK is, period. It looks a lot bigger than it is.
I know. But I don't want a Pokemon story to be 40, 50, 60 hours long because my main thing is competitive battling. I want to go through the story, see all the new things on the Pokemon, and then start going into competitive battling. Which brings me to my next point. Like, so many people are upset about the Dex cut.
Right.
Now, think about it as being a brand new person to Pokemon and being told there's 1,000 Pokemon in the game. Like, that's kind of overwhelming to learn the Pokemon and their moves, this and the other. Like me, and I'm pretty sure like 90% of everyone else, they're gonna literally just take their game when Pokemon Move comes out for the Switch, load it into a 3DS on the 3DS app, and move their Pokemon like 800 or whatever Pokemon it is from one to the other, and then just drop it right in the game, and boom, complete the Pokedex. Like they're not necessarily going out and recatching all these Pokemon.
Right. We used to have to do that, but nobody does that anymore.
Thankfully, we don't have to.
So that kind of does that make the point? Oh, the National Dex from the perspective of Pokemon, because to be fair, competitive is like a very small portion of the people who play Pokemon, right? Like the majority of people who play Pokemon are just like you're saying, they just want to get through the story, capture some cool new Pokemon, beat the Elite Four, maybe go back, level some up, and that's pretty much it, right? Like I would say that's probably.
I feel like competitive is larger than it's ever been.
I wouldn't disagree with you. I'm just saying in terms of proportion of the people that bought the game and played through it.
Then it's a small amount. Yeah,
that would be my assumption. So ultimately, the deck matters most to you guys. I feel like because it sucks if my favorite Pokemon's not in there, but like I can beat the game. You know what I mean? You can't play competitive the same way if the Pokemon you used aren't in there anymore. So I guess it would affect you guys differently.
It did split the meta. It definitely split the meta.
It changes the meta, which is good because there always needs to be a good meta change.
Right. And
that's always a good thing.
You and I have discussed this from the perspective of other games, but like I've played Magic long enough, and that's a game that constantly changes out the meta. It's just like, okay, these cards are no longer usable, just like every 6 months. these aren't usable anymore. Like at least with Pokemon, they held on to that idea as long as they could. You
Yeah.
know? And I don't know. I think I agree with you of just like they could probably make it work. Me and Adam were discussing it a bit prior to this, a couple of days ago, about how ultimately he feels like the easiest way to do that would have just been to create a new stadium and just
Oh my
focus on
god.
making a new stadium game. And then boom, you have all the movesets, you have all the Pokemon, you don't have to worry about the overworld, and you could just focus on building the Pokemon.
It's kind of like Pokemon Showdown,
Right.
Yeah.
That
which
would be the
reminds me,
idea.
I wonder how
I,
they're going to adapt that now.
I don't know what that is.
it's
Pokemon
such a
Showdown
work.
is go ahead. You can.
No, you can explain it.
Okay. Pokemon Showdown is a computer game that it's basically just a Pokemon battling. That's all it is. It's just
Okay.
an application. You build your team, set your EVs and IVs, the moves you want, and with any Pokemon, any legal stats, and then you go play with them.
Okay.
There are tiers and everything. But the whole thing, though, they said when they were adding Pokemon to this game, they said they were having balancing issues. And that's one of the reasons they decided not to include all Pokemon.
Sure.
So, with those balancing issues in mind, I wonder if they're going to be able to include those in Pokemon Showdown that easily.
Interesting. Is
What
Showdown
balancing
official?
issues? No.
Okay. It's unofficial. Okay.
What
No.
balancing issues did they say they had? Because I mean, if you think about it, every Pokemon has its set stats that it can get, and the set moves it can learn. I mean,
Right.
They didn't say.
almost 1,000 Pokemon, there's gonna be the top of the top. It's always like that. Like it's like that in almost any game. Like
Right.
Yeah.
in Destiny, there's always gonna be the best weapon.
Right.
There's always
There
gonna be
just
the
is.
best card or best deck to use in Hearthstone.
Right.
That's just how it always ends up being. You can balance it by nerfing it, and like, oh, this month we're gonna nerf Dragonite speed by 10%, and
Right.
Dragon Rage got nerfed by this much. Like they're not
Right.
gonna do that. But I was really hoping for a stadium-like feature just in this game, like in Sword and Shield. Like you go on stadium mode, and it's just the stadiums that they have, which are beautiful, the gyms,
Right.
and you have rental Pokemon, and then you have the Pokemon that you've trained, and like just like stadium. Like that's what I was hoping for because they
Right.
haven't had one in forever, and it was amazing. It's a great party game. It's great to go online and just battle people.
Right.
Like,
It's been
ugh.
asked for forever.
Yeah, because the
Um,
pros, like I wouldn't call well, I guess pros, they are champions. The people that play Pokemon, the video game competitively,
Sure.
they don't really go through the game. Like they have someone else beat the game for them, and then they start, getting their team together. They don't waste
Right.
their time doing that.
Right. I assumed so. Their whole focus is just build my team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, which is fine, but Pokemon Stadium, it would just basically cut out the middleman of Pokemon Showdown and just make it an official version.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I feel like that would be an easier way to handle that problem. You know what I mean? Of just getting all the Pokemon animated and moves and all that sort of stuff. But again, it's a balancing thing, and that alone could take them a long time. So, but I have one last question, and then you guys can just let me know if I missed anything else you want to discuss. We'll open it up a bit. Regarding performance, how is it actually run, like on Switch versus docked and handheld? Is there any difference?
Wait, who's this directed to?
I guess you could start.
Okay. A consistent thing that I encounter when I play Switch games is I go, really? There's already frame rate lag? There's like nothing happening.
Right.
That seems to be a theme with playing a lot of Switch games, and I think Pokemon's the same way. It runs okay. There are times when you're in the wild area or if there's grass moving or something that you get a frame rate dip or something.
Okay.
But I haven't seen it happen in battle. I've seen it
Okay.
happen in the overworld a lot, but I haven't seen it happen in battle.
Is that handheld and docked or just one or the other?
Definitely, it happens frequently in docked and then on occasion in handheld, but it does happen in handheld, yes.
Okay. I assume so, because correct me if I'm wrong, but typically what they do is they build the game design on the handheld mode and then overclock it for the
Yeah,
that's
the
how they do it.
dock just overclocks the Switch.
Gotcha.
I thought they built it docked and then just like
Dumb it down.
Yeah, dumbed it. That's what I guess each developer do it any way they want, but that's what I thought they were doing.
Right. I mean, either way, I guess it would
Because
work, but I
Like
feel
I
like you have more
know
issues that way.
there's certain games that actually have settings where you can change the like lower the graphics would increase the frame rate, or
Right.
decrease the frame rate, increase the graphics.
Right.
Like there's some games that do that.
I
Right on
f-
Xbox and
I,
PlayStation.
f-
I
I
haven't
No,
seen
on
it
the
feel
on Switch
like
Switch.
yet.
On
Oh,
the
I
Switch,
okay.
yeah.
yeah.
Darksiders does it.
Oh, okay. There it is.
Um, was it Darksiders 3 that came out for the Switch or 2?
Two, I think.
Yeah, that does it. There's like two other games that I've seen
Interesting.
that does it, where you
I
can
have the sliders.
enhance the visuals and decrease the frame rate, or increase the frame rate and decrease the visuals.
Interesting. Chris, you were saying
Um,
something? Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
Put
I
you
was
all-
saying that when it comes to Switch games in general, not so much Pokemon, I feel like their best angle is to develop for the handheld first, and then overclock
Right. That'd be
for
my
the
assumption.
dock, just for the fact that people aren't buying the Switch to play their games. I mean, yeah, people want to play the newest Nintendo
Right.
games, but when you think about just someone who's buying the Switch, if they want to really embrace the concept of the Switch, they're going to be playing a lot in portable. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like there's all these AAA games that are now finally making their way to Switch, but like they're not exactly the best quality, but you're not buying
Right.
them. You're not buying them for that reason. You're buying them so you can play them on Switch. You can take them with you.
Exactly. Like Witcher 3. Like
Exactly.
there's a
That's a great
significant
example. Or
downgrade, but
Overwatch.
you can play. Yeah,
Overwatch is
exactly.
apparently awful.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Jason, you have it on Switch or no? I think
Yeah,
we've talked about it before.
it's fine. I just don't like the controls. I never liked the controls of Overwatch on anything other than PC.
Oh, okay,
It
that's what it
runs
was.
perfectly fine. Like it runs well. I just don't like playing Overwatch on a controller.
If it makes you
And
feeling
it's
better,
been like that with Xbox and PlayStation. Like
fair enough.
I started I started Overwatch on PC. The way I feel, like it's just really weird playing Overwatch anything else than the PC for some reason to me. I don't know why.
Well,
It's
screw
control
you too,
schemes.
Jason.
If it
No,
makes you
I
feel
like
better,
it's just there's so many. I don't know. I don't know what it is about Overwatch. I play other games on console that with
right?
controllers like Call of Duty and Battlefield and stuff like that. It's not the same when it comes to Overwatch for some reason. Just I think it's because Overwatch is such a fast-paced game. I feel like Overwatch is a faster-paced game than Call of Duty. There's
I
just so many
would agree.
different things happening in there. But to answer the question that you asked
Yeah.
previously, I didn't really notice any slowdown
Okay.
or frame drops, and I played both docked and handheld, and I was
Gotcha.
streaming it. I didn't get any
Oh, good.
notifications of frame drops. But what did annoy the heck out of me was the wild area.
Uh-huh.
It's perfectly fine when you're offline, but when you're online, it really does stutter with
Okay.
pop-ups of other people, and then that's where you see frame drops. For me, that's where I saw frame drops, was the wild area when connected online. It it wasn't the greatest experience.
Yeah, I've heard that from or I've seen it written, by a couple other people in reviews and stuff like that. This is one of the rare games where I held off and actually did read reviews and what, other people have thought and talked with you guys. Typically I know whether or not a game's for me. Where this was the first Pokemon game where I legitimately was like, I don't know. I don't know if this is for me or not. So uh so that was the whole point, is though not only get you guys' impressions and reviews out, but also kind of allow those of us who are skeptical, because it's still the game's only been out for a week now.
Yeah, something
So
like that.
there's still plenty of time. Black Friday is next week, so I'm sure it's gonna sell like hotcakes.
It
But
already has.
yeah, I know, that's what I've heard. It's
It's
the
the
best selling
fastest
Switch game,
selling
right?
game. Yeah, the
Yeah,
fastest and best selling Switch game.
But
not surprising.
but it has not yet reached the numbers that Sun and Moon
Right.
have.
Well, that you gotta lend that to the install base. Yeah, the Switch has done
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, but the 3DS was out
for a
what
long
6 years or
True.
7 years
Yeah.
prior to
True.
that game coming out.
You'd have to take a ratio to actually see how
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
It'd probably be more fair to compare it directly to like X and Y or Sun and Moon.
X and
Probably.
Y. X and Y was the first Pokemon game on the 3DS.
Right.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
I mean, even prior to that, people were playing Black and White and Black and White 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what was it? Black and White 2 that came out around the 3DS time?
Yeah, I think so, but it came out on the DS, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah, it
came
was a
out-
DS game.
It came out on the DSi,
Right. That's what it was.
right when and then the 3DS came out around the same time. I know that. Fun fact: Black and White 2, I think, is the lowest was the lowest user reviewed game Pokemon game until Sword and
Bomb
Shield.
the hell out of this one.
Sword and Shield are hitting a solid 4.0.
Yeah. The last time I saw it was 3.3, and I was
From
like,
the
"Come
user
on, there's
base.
no way a
People,
Pokemon."
like I said, people are really upset about the Dex, and I
Yeah,
feel like from there they just get more and more angry. It's like when you hate someone and you watch them
you
doing
just
something
hate
that wouldn't piss you
everything they
off
do.
if anyone else is doing, but the fact that they're doing it, it just makes you
You're
mad.
like, you're obnoxious, and
These
everything you do is
Dynamax Pokemon are
obnoxious.
stupid. You guys worked on this instead of putting more Pokemon in.
Right,
Kind of thing.
right.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong. Some of that I can agree with, but at the same point, like, I don't know. I'm past the age of like I'm gonna catch them all. I've given up that dream. That's not happening anymore. Like,
Have you seen the memes? Gotta catch some of them.
no,
Like
but I don't.
they crossed out. They crossed out. Gotta catch them all, and like gotta catch some of them.
Yeah. What are they gonna do for the TV show?
Yeah.
It's gonna be weird.
Well, I mean, if you
Uh,
think about it, they don't feature every Pokemon in every episode or even in every series.
right.
They just don't. There's just too many. There's
I
always the
don't think they
core
ever
few they're
do all of them,
using.
right?
No, not
Yeah.
necessarily. There's always a core few they show, and then a couple appearances here and there of some new ones. And it's always been like that. I feel
Right.
like this whole national no national Dex really is people are taking it to the extreme, and they're just losing out on their own experience. It's a great game, totally worth the $60. I mean, the graphics are fine. The graphics will get better. Like everyone's complaining about the graphics. Look at X and Y. X and Y looked great, and
Right.
then next you know, Sun and Sun and Moon looked 10 times better than X and Y. I look back at X and
Right.
Y. I was like, how do I think these graphics are great? Every
Right.
game, the graphics get better for Pokemon. I've not played a Pokemon game where the graphics went backwards. Just haven't.
Interesting. If it
Yeah.
helps, again, I can only compare to the other recent Game Freak game I played, which was Little Town Hero and Let's Go. And Let's Go looked really good, I thought. And then
It
Little
looks better
Town.
than Let's Go.
Okay, well that's good because Little Town Hero is like a ride in between that, where it's like some of it looks better than Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like the character models look better than Pokemon in Little Town Hero, but the environment looks worse. So that was my concern. Is this just like, is it gonna be like, is the quality gonna suffer here and there? But it sounds like more or less that it's just a regular Pokemon game with not all of them in it, and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
That's the consensus I'm getting.
This is what we have to wait for. We wait for the next game to come out, and then we compare the two. If the next game that comes out is far worse than this one, then Game Freak is definitely messing up. And
Right.
going forward, we don't buy the games because
That's
we're
what
not
I'm
going
gonna
to
tell you
buy
to suck it, Jason.
crap.
Right.
For what
I,
reason?
Yeah.
I'm very concerned. I'm concerned going forward that Game Freak kind of wants to get out of having to make Pokemon. That just seems to be the kind of vibe I'm getting from them.
They've been doing it for so many years. I mean, that's how Bungie was with Halo. They wanted to stop
Right.
doing Halo games, do something different. But I have not seen something other than Pokemon that Game Freak does that is
Successful.
that big. Yeah, where they make these huge sales numbers. I was
Right.
excited for Little Town Hero, or Town
Right.
was the code name. But then when I found out how the battling system was, I was completely turned off. I was like, this is stupid. In my
Yeah,
opinion, I didn't like it. I was like,
that was a bad decision because they
they had a
based it on
real
a TCG.
yeah,
Like
they
they
had a
built it like a
really
trading card
good
game.
they had a really good chance of making a really different, fun game. I thought it was gonna be much bigger than what it was, and then I was like, I just didn't buy it. I was so psyched for it up until the release, and I was just like, I'm done. Like, I'm not getting
It's
that.
very, very bloated. Anyways, if you want to check that out, I have a whole video on the channel about it. I actually thought it was very good, but again, I recognize the fact that this game is literally not for everybody.
Yeah,
So again, with my concern here is that with Pokemon is a brand. It is usually for most people, including children. So that was my concern of like, is this really going to be for me? It sounds like actually it might fit better with my schedule because now I don't have to worry about balancing as much and like, oh, I'm catching all these garbage Pokemon. Because that was like my problem with Let's Go is that I was just catching all these garbage Pokemon just because I kept running into them and it was so easy to catch stuff. That I'd end up with like, 50 fucking Rattatas. So,
well, yeah, that was the aspect of that game was to catch or multiple
right.
other Pokemon. Like, there was really not any battling besides the trainers. But I mean,
But with this one, they're back to like standard
yeah,
Pokemon, right?
it's back to normal.
Okay.
They may want to get out of Pokemon, but I don't see what they would do because the only other game I
Yeah.
know of that they made besides Little Town Hero Pokemon is like a rhythm game on the 3DS,
Yeah, they did that, and they did something
and that
else.
that didn't do so well either.
They did Tembo, I think. Tembo, the badass elephant. That was good. That was actually a
Yes,
good game.
they
It
did
didn't
that.
sell well, but it was
Very
a
little.
good
Yeah,
game.
it's a very small
Yeah.
sale on it. I don't know.
So I don't know. This seems like they're stuck with this, but we're kind of going off the rails. So do you guys
But
have anything left that you want to discuss that we didn't discuss yet?
I think I said my piece.
Okay. I think
yeah,
the big meat of this was always going to be the National Dex discussion.
Big meat.
Yeah. So I do like the name they've given it. I like the Dexit. I like the
Oh yeah.
terminology. That's good. It's a clever name. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Until next time, yeah, we're the ambassadors of gaming. This has been group chat, and we're gonna keep trying out new stuff. So if you want early access to stuff like this, however, you can also get it on the Patreon for like $1 for early access, exclusive access, $5 for early access. That's what it is. You get it like a whole month early typically. This one's gonna go out faster than that because it's a review. So we'll put it up on the Patreons tonight, and then probably put it out live Wednesday or Tuesday or something like that. So anyways, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. Thank you very much for talking about Pokemon and your experiences with it.
Yup.
And yeah, we'll actually we're all getting back together for recording tomorrow, aren't we?
I think so.
yes.
Yeah, well, that would be fun. Anyway, so yeah, we have Games Embassy as well. Check that out. That's our news show. Until next time, I am Ambassador Michael,
I'm Ambassador Chris.
And I am Ambassador Jason.
and this has been Group Chat. Go buy Pokemon. I guess it's good. That's what I'm gonna do. So
You
Bye.
do not know how to close them, but you do not know how to close out at all.
no, dude, my closings are awful. That's why I let you do it.
You need to write it out.
That's why I let
Jeez
you close.
Louise. You crack me up.
The whole point of group chat though is to be more like just
Casual.
Kind of
Yeah, I guess so.
But
You
I'm
said
just
this has
an
been
awful
group
human
chat
being.
3 times at the end.
This is me having a mental breakdown because I can't formulate a sentence and figure out how to end something.
All right. I'm going to go back to my destinying. So
I just found out that I know what's wrong with Mike with his endings.
Huh? Oh yeah, what's wrong
He,
with it?